Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Let's spend some time worshiping the Father this morning together. Here we go. Sing with me. I've tried so hard to see it. Took me so long to believe it. That you'd choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. You give what we don't deserve, and you take the broken things and raise them to glory. 'Cause you are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. And I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Now I can finally see it. You're teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. Oh, this is my victory. 'Cause you are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. And I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles come breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. And I am who you say I Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. And I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. And I've still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I've built my life on Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. So why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've got been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. So why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Rain came and wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came and wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came and wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause I'm standing strong on you. Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause my house is built on you. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that God, we give our praise to you today. God, we thank you for not failing us. God, we thank you for being the foundation upon which we can model our lives after. God, that we can strive and live towards you each and every day. God, I pray that our worship brings you honor. I pray that this teaching today brings us honor. I pray that our conversation and our discussions in our small groups bring you honor and glory. God, that our lives can be a reflection of who you are in this world. God, that there's nothing that we do in this earth on our own, but we do it because you give us the power to do it. And it's you doing the work. God, thank you for using us. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for growing us. Thank you for stretching us. God, we pray that today brings you glory. In your name, amen.
We're starting out a new series around Christmas time. Obviously, it's always the go-to one. So we're just calling this one The Kid, because we're just looking at how this birth of this one little child would change everything. And so since it's Christmas time, it's always good just to look over like what we think of Christmas and then the reality behind Christmas. So I love, how many of you guys like Christmas is like, this is your favorite holiday? Is anybody, Christmas is like your top favorite? It's at least got to be your top two, all right? If it's not your top one, it's got to at least be your top two. I do love Christmas. I love all the stuff that goes with it. I've never been, I know I talk to a lot of people at church and like, well, we missed the reason for it. We shouldn't do this. And like, all of it's fun. All of that stuff can be amazing things. And so much of what we do, from Christmas trees to like caroling and singing to the lights, all of it really has a lot of Christian roots to it. And so we can have a ton of fun with it. And so I love this time of the season. I love this time of year. You guys, you're going to get out of school a little bit more. Do you guys you only have like one full week in December, right? Or you have 2 full weeks? You have 3? I thought there was like another little holiday mixed in there, somewhere in there. How many days of school do you actually have? 17? I mean, come on. That's good stuff. Like, it's a great time, and then you get a couple weeks off. We love Christmas. But with all the stuff, with everything, we can sometimes get our Christmas story a little cloudy. It can become a little confusing. And so what we want to look today is just like the real story, like what was really taking place beyond this stuff, what was really happening. See, we've taken the Christmas story, and sometimes like when we try to like shove it into movies or to Christmas pageants or plays or whatever, we really want to make it a little more drama. We want to create a little bit more than what may have actually been taking place there, just for like the fun of it, just for like, oh, like look how like there's so much action packed and all of this stuff. So what do you know? All right, we got a few minutes. I want to kind of see if someone could give me like a really quick, like just a snapshot of what took place between Mary and Joseph and on their way to Bethlehem and the birth of Jesus. Like, what do we know? Yes, Summer, give me something really quick. Okay. So we can mix in like that story about like how, well, were they being hunted? Were they being like followed after before they had the baby? Because we know that the King Herod at the time wanted, like, he heard about there might be some of this stuff. And so sometimes I have seen nativity scenes where that's part of the story, but that's not really what was taking place there. But I have seen part of that in a movie where it might look something like that. Yeah, what else? What do we think of? All right, there's no room at the inn, so they had to stay in the stable. Now, I want everybody here to picture this, okay? Because many of you guys you know the story, you've seen movies or shows on this. When you picture them traveling and showing up in Bethlehem and looking for a room, what scenes are in your mind? What does that look like in your head right now? Somebody else. Throw out something. What are you picturing when you see this? Don't be shy now. Come on, guys. We're all very quiet. You guys, normally I'm really happy when you're this quiet, but share something. What's going through your head when you see those scenes? What do you got? Right there. You're seeing they're on their way. They're going to Bethlehem. Like Mary's pregnant. What's taking place? What goes through your mind? Somebody over here. Come on, upper class. They're really tired. They're what? They're wandering around. Yeah. It's crowded streets. I thought somebody was about to say something. Yes. There was talking camels and I mean, I guess if you've watched the cartoon versions of the nativity, that may have been in the story. So sometimes we have this picture of like this chaotic scene, and when you picture like there was no room at the inn, right? So what do you picture Joseph doing? What's happening here? This side. Kiari. What do you picture? Just guys, there's no wrong answer. I'm just wanting your thoughts. You're picturing that you've seen the shows, you've watched movies. Joseph shows up in Bethlehem. What's he doing? What's it look like? Yeah. He's probably really mad. Mary's probably like, I told you to make reservations. Like she's on it, she's all over him about it. Yes. Just running around asking a bunch of people, right? Yeah. Okay, in your mind, all right? Now just raise your hand on this one. In your mind, Mary was about to give birth as soon as they got to Bethlehem. Does anybody picture that? Like Joseph's just running around trying to find a place. She's about to have birth. Anybody see that in their head? Okay, some of you are just like, we've all heard of the story about Christmas, right? Let's start back on that one. Okay, so there was this baby Jesus. Okay, I don't know how far back we need to start. You guys are giving me this just glaze over. This is what happens when you have no bedtimes for 5 days right here. Right here, this is what happens. You guys this was the first time in days you had to wake up early and you're just glazed over. When you look at the story, see, sometimes we can take this Christmas story, and it's an amazing story. There's a miracle that takes place there. But because of shows, because we've tried to make them into pageants, because of movies, we add a lot of drama to it. We need the story to look a little more exciting. So we have this image of maybe they're on the run because King Herod is, made this is he going to be killing these children because he's jealous, or these magi on the search for this child, or as Mary was on this mule or donkey or whatever she was traveling on, she was going to this far off land into Bethlehem. They're traveling, and she's about to give birth any minute, and we see this image of Joseph just knocking door to door and is anybody, my wife's about to give birth, and he's just running around. And sometimes we've created this excitement because sometimes we try to make the story of Jesus, his birth, in a little 1 hour and 45-minute movie, and we need that tension. We need Joseph just stressed out. We need Mary as she enters the town about to give birth, because that's more exciting. And so we can kind of miss some of this. What's really taking place here it wasn't this super exciting story. It wasn't this gigantic pinnacle moment and all of a sudden, as soon as Joseph found a place for her to give birth, the baby Jesus just came right then. It was actually a pretty relaxed story when you really look at what was taking place there. We like to add a lot of stuff to it, but we don't need to add to the miracle of what really took place here. What really took place here is God saw his creation, and God saw his creation in need of a forgiveness, in need of a bridge to a relationship with him. God saw mankind that had fallen in sin and had wandered away from him, and he needed a way that all men could just come straight to God and forgiveness. That there would no longer be this sacrifice system, that there no longer be a need to bring an animal to the temple for a sacrifice, that if one could pay the sacrifice for all. And so God saw that, and so God had an answer for that. And that is where and why we have the birth of who Jesus is. But when you look at what is written in Luke chapter 2, which gives us like our only real account for the birth of Jesus, we really see that it wasn't this dramatic movie scene or from The Chosen or from whatever show you watched or Talking Donkeys on cartoons. There was none of that. There was no need for any of that. The excitement didn't need to happen because the miracle itself was the biggest deal. When you look in Luke chapter 2, Luke was not one of the disciples. We get that confused a lot because it's one of the Gospels right there with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Luke was actually became a believer probably following the crowd with Jesus, but he was not one of the original 12 disciples, but he was there with them. And so Luke was a physician, a doctor. He was a very intelligent man, and he was really like acute to details. He wanted to know what was behind that. And so we really see a lot of Luke's story was a lot of just constant, what's the word? Questioning, like a reporter almost. Like he wanted eyewitness accounts. And so a lot of what we get from Luke, a lot of the early stuff was probably from Mary, and then a lot of the stuff after that was from most of the disciples. And he wanted a really solid account of what took place so that he could share with a lot of non-Jewish people so that they could understand what was taking place here. And so when you look at Luke chapter 2, this was probably Mary's actual account. From Mary's point of view, like this is what really happened. And we don't see this in the other Gospels. We only get this in Luke because Luke probably interviewed Mary herself on this. And so in Luke chapter 2, I want you to read, and you guys can follow along on the screens here. And I want you to kind of just see like what was really taking place here. In Luke chapter 2, we'll just start at verse 1 and just read some of those. And so it says, in those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. And so Caesar, the ruler of the Roman Empire, wanted an account. How many people are in our empire? How many people are in this land? And so they issued this account. And this was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. These things are important because you probably are like, I don't care about that stuff. But to Luke and to historians, it places a date and a timeline. So people can look back and go, okay, who was in the rule? Where did this happen? Who was the governor? And so scholars can look at the dates for that. So it says, so Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee into Judea to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the line of David. So Joseph and Mary are in Nazareth, but they need to travel back to the town he grew up in. So now they're like, all right, it's the census. We need to go back to Bethlehem, register there so that they can take account for us. This was something everybody was doing, though. So Mary and Joseph's journey was nothing special compared to what anybody else was doing. There was probably lots of pregnant ladies heading back because they had to go to the homeland or the city of the husband. And so they are going back to where Joseph was, where he was from. And so again, nothing like out of the ordinary, a very normal thing. Lots of pregnant women were probably, riding somewhere to the homeland of their husbands where they were from. And so he goes on, and he says he went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time had come for a baby to be born. See, we need to leave out that part when we're making a movie, when we're making a show. We need Mary to be almost like giving birth right there. We need some excitement. We need Joseph stressed out when we watch these movies because we need there's nothing exciting about the fact that they just took a journey that everybody else was taking. But if you notice there, this idea of Joseph just running around, knocking on doors, please somebody, my wife's about to give birth. We need help right now. Anybody. It says he went to register with Mary, and while they were there, they've been there for a while. There was no running around. Bethlehem was probably packed because everybody was traveling back to their hometowns, so the places were full. There was a lot of people that needed a place to stay. There was a lot of people looking around going, is there anywhere I can sleep? Is there a relative, a guest place, a room that we can stay? But they already had a place. They had been there for a while. Nothing crazy, none of this, running around all over the place. He says, while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. While they were there, see, God didn't put Mary in a situation and like, okay, this is going to be stressful. This is going to be crazy. There was no, dramatic music playing. There was no drum roll. There wasn't anything. They had been there for a while. They were registered. They had a place to stay. And when the time had come, Mary had her baby. We can take out all the drama from any of that stuff. Just a regular birth taking place. And so it says, while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. There weren't a lot of inns in Bethlehem. Bethlehem is a small town, very small town. So there probably weren't a lot of places. An inn could have been anywhere. Think more, instead of like a hotel or anything like that, think more like a Vrbo. It was probably something like that where people rented out. Okay, everybody's coming in for the census. We'll rent out some guest rooms. We'll rent out a spot. We'll rent out whatever we have. And so because those places packed up really quick, a lot of them, these buildings at the time, had some sort of little area where they would keep some of their small animals or, some of them like right outside by the house. And when it got cold, they would kind of bring them into an inner room that was sometimes used as a guest room. Sometimes it was just room for the animals to be moved into. So this whole idea like, oh, they were out some barn or some stable out by themselves in the middle of nowhere, none of that is not real. That's for our dramatic interpretation of it because that sounds a little crazy. You're like, oh, Joseph's stressed out and he's running around. And, oh, hey, go give birth over there in this barn out in the middle of nowhere. It was probably some sort of little room, little like kind of guest room where animals were allowed to go in and out of. And so they'd been there, though. They'd already been there for a while. They had this place, and she gave birth to him. Now, it wasn't the best place to give birth to, but there was probably other people staying in similar situations just like this, staying in these sort of like guest areas, but the animals were also kind of put in there as well because people were just trying to make some money and rent out whatever room they had. And so when we look at this, it kind of takes away some of the craziness of the story, but there didn't need to be any craziness to the story. See, all we need to focus on the fact that there was a birth of a Messiah. We focus so much on all this other stuff and our nativity scenes, and we try to recreate. And every year there's another Christmas movie that comes out, and every year it's the same sort of, dramatic interpretation of it, of what happens. But really, they traveled there like a lot of other people did. They stayed there for a while like a lot of other people did, and they stayed in a room that wasn't the best, but a lot of people were sleeping in rooms like that temporarily before they went back home. It just so happens that this is where this child was born. And because he was born in that situation, because he was born in there, makes it so incredible. It's not the drama side of it that makes it incredible. It's the complete, and I want you to catch this part, it's the complete normalcy of it that makes this so amazing. It's the complete average, basic thing that makes this so amazing because this was the Son of God. This was the Messiah from prophecies that the Jewish people have been waiting hundreds and hundreds of years for. And yet, he was born in the most average way, in a less than average condition. And that itself is what is so amazing about the story of what Christmas is. We don't need all that other stuff. We don't need the drama because the miracle was already taking place. The miracle is already the fact that our God chose to use an average, normal way, a normal situation for the Messiah to be born. And so why is that kind of a cool thing? Why does that make it better than some sort of drama-filled thing, or the fact that he wasn't born in some castle, or all this stuff, that he wasn't on the run and all this stuff takes place? Why does that make it just normal? Because if anything, it just shows us how much Jesus connects with us. It shows us that God didn't need all of this extra stuff. He wanted Jesus to be so relatable, so like this just normal, typical birth. The miracle was the fact that Mary gave birth before they were husband and wife. The miracle was the virgin birth of a Messiah took place to offer the world righteousness. That is what the miracle was. We don't need that other stuff. And because it's so normal, I think we see in different parts where Scripture points out that you have this God this Son of God, this Jesus that relates to you right where you're at. We see in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14 and 15, where later on they'll write about Jesus after his death and resurrection. And he says, we have this great high priest, and he's talking about Jesus, the Son of God, who let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. But it's this next part. It's this next part that's so amazing. He says, for we don't have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, and yet he did not sin. So let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. I think when we remove all the drama of our creation of the nativity and we see Jesus was born in this normal way, it shows us exactly what Jesus came to be. He came to be someone that says, I can relate to that. I can relate. From the very beginning, Jesus was born in this very humble, normal way. In the humblest of positions, in the humblest of places to be born, in this small town where there was no famous things, there was nothing taking place there. And because of that, we can see that everything from Jesus' birth to how he was raised until he started his ministry shows this is a God that understands. This is a God, this is a Messiah that lived a normal life of a teenager. He probably interned under his father as either a carpenter or working with stone and probably started building some stuff. He probably did some of these things. He went to school. He did the normal things, and that's what we see from Hebrews, that he didn't do anything that he can't understand from you. Born in a normal way, raised as a normal life, understanding and going through the same things that you guys go through. And because of this just normal life, we don't have to think, oh, there's all this exciting stuff, and look at Jesus' birth, look at this. Some of you probably had more exciting births take place the way you were born than what Jesus did. Some of you guys have these life or death situations. Some of you guys, your mom might have a story about how she had to rush to the hospital and about to take place, or whatever take place. That wasn't the fact with Jesus. Born in a normal way, in a humble manner, in order to be a Messiah that each and every one of us can relate to. And so we see from this that, one, God knows his people. He knows who you are. He understands what you come from. There was no exciting thing. There was no born in a higher up, type of situation, born in a kingdom or a castle. He's right there with us because he's gone through everything we have in a very normal way. He also knows where you are at. He gets just this normal life and everyday life of who you are. It's crazy to think of, but we need to remember Jesus went through 12, 13, and 14 years. He went through those weird middle school years. He went through 16, 17, and 18. He went through those times of learning to be an adult and trying to be out on his own. He went through those things in order to empathize for us, in order to have compassion for his people. Everything about him from birth until he started his ministry, he understood. He understood in that ways, and because of that, he also knows what you are capable of doing and what you can do, and what you can become. We see through Jesus' story of his birth that God decided, out of all the ways to start this, he started in a very humble and normal way so that it was something each and every one of us can relate to. And to me, I find it amazing to see why he chose to do it that way, so that it could be something that all of you could relate to and understand. And he started his ministry from there. And so as you guys go on to your small groups today, I want you to kind of think about that idea of why does that matter? Why does it matter that Jesus began life in this very normal, average way? Why is that a bigger deal that he did start it that way? Why did God choose to start the birth of this Messiah in this very humble and normal birth? Why? What would have been the difference if Jesus was born in a castle with, in a kingdom, the way you think the Messiah was supposed to be born? Why would that have changed everything compared to this very normal and average birth in this setting? How does that change? And when you look at the facts of Scripture, how does that change the way you see the nativity? And so give some time and discussion, guys. You guys have a few minutes in your small groups today just to think about some of those things. So get a little alive and woken up before you go to your groups, and go on and have a great, great morning.